And how are the cases chosen for YNG Supreme Court?
I don't know. Sorry.
I'm gonna have to say that I'm not sure.
I have no clue. Basically, whoever slips the judge the most money gets it.
Yeah, pretty much. Funded by big corporations.
I don't know how they're chosen.
I would think they'd be chosen based on actual cases that were probably already tried.
They're completely random.
There are famous cases that have brought about great change.
They're carefully chosen by a group of intellectuals.
By the old art of just drawing out of a hat, get them on maybe note cards or tissue paper, write down your cases, like abbreviated. Like if it's Ansel versus Adams, you just do Ants versus Ad. You just put it in a big hat, like preferably a top hat, like a magician. You shake it all about. Don't let any get out because then it's unfair. And then you just get in there and pick one.
On reporting here with Dave Wright, the program staff advisor for the Supreme Court program area. So, Mr. Wright, how long has this program area existed in youth and government?
The Supreme Court component of the Model Legislature Court program has been in place since approximately 1978. In 1978, in response to the need to have all branches of government represented, we added a court component to the model legislature. And at the initial creation of the program, there were about 36 to 40 delegates, 2 benches in the appellate court and 1 bench of the Supreme Court.
And what do you think makes this program area unique to the other aspects of youth and government and the other courts that are in youth and government, like trial and appellate?
Well, the Supreme Court is unique in that the case materials are a little more advanced. The caliber of the arguments that we're looking from the attorneys is a higher caliber of argument. And we actually interview the members of the Supreme Court as well as judicial review and jury trial to ensure that the delegates have the necessary skills, both orally and the presence, to stand up in front of a group of people in a very intimidating environment and be able to carry on arguments and conversations in that type of an environment. But the Supreme Court is an incredibly difficult program area that requires a tremendous amount of dedication from the delegates.
At Bob 2, delegates elected Attorney General and Chief Justice for the Supreme Court program. Andrew Tang from the Southwest Riverside delegation and Bharath Ganesh from El Dorado shared their experiences and expectations. Congratulations on your election.
Well, thank you very much.
So I know that you were in the trial court program area last year.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you decide to participate in court again, and why do you have this interest in the court aspect of youth and government?
Well, last year in trial court, I worked with my fellow council member was one of my best friends in my own delegation, and we worked till about 2 for the first 2 nights, and then didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. And although that sounds pitiful and extenuating, it was extremely entertaining and fun. It was truly worth it, and it kind of inspired me for, to find more within the legal realm of my future, possibly go into a profession of law.
And what made you decide to run for Attorney General this year?
Well, actually, for to run, I didn't know I was going to be in YNG until the day beforehand. I had kind of filled out all the paperwork and whatnot, but just because of recent things that were happening to me health-wise and whatnot, kind of my advisor was really telling me that I should kind of take my opportunities, see how it goes, and that's kind of I first did the Supreme Court justice. Didn't fare too well, but got some resounding approval, and kind of coaxed me to try it again. And hey, I'm here now.
And what does your job entail as Attorney General for this program area?
Kind of differing from what a real Attorney General does. In YNG, the Attorney General kind of is the lead counsel within one of the cases for the Supreme Court. I represent the state. My case is about the constitutionality of drunk driving, kind of just checkpoints. And just basically, I'm a regular lawyer, but I just get a fancy title.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
I understand that there are 2 cases that you're working on this year. What's so controversial about these 2 cases?
One of the cases is really controversial. It's State versus the estate of Dink, and basically in this case, 2 parents couldn't conceive normally, and what happened was they decided to use artificial insemination. So they had 25 zygotes to be cultivated, and they're sitting in a test tube in a lab. And what happened was the parents did try to use artificial insemination. However, it failed the first couple times. So they have 25 zygotes left in the test tube. And what happened was the two of them went out on New Year's Eve, I believe, and they died. So now they had a estate worth a few $1 million. And the question is, what does the estate go to the state, or does the estate stay with the family? And are the zygotes viable heirs?
I'm here in the Supreme Court suite with attorneys Michael and Tommy for the state versus the estate of Dink case. So what do you think your most pivotal arguments will be tomorrow?
Well, we have really two main parts of the argument of our side, and we represent the state, not Dink. Basically, the two things is the uncertainty of how much stuff people, outside forces would really have to do to get the zygotes to the point where they even could have a possibility of actually receiving the stuff left behind by their passed away parents. And the other part is how when the laws that refer to this, which were actually made way back when, 1200s I think, that we're still using today, don't really refer to this kind of situation, and so those laws, don't really apply. But that second part is actually really complicated.
So there's a level of uncertainty that we would have to justify and figure out before the zygotes could possibly be considered heirs. And one of the major parts of the uncertainty is the parental intent and what they were expecting to do before they passed away, which is really unclear because they didn't really write down how many kids they wanted and how they wanted the procedures to happen. So there's questions like how many children they wanted. Did they want all 25 to be implanted and hopefully have a very large family? Or did they want 4 or 5 to be implanted into one woman, so hopefully one would eventually catch on to the uterine wall and produce a child? And then the second part of the uncertainty is if this were to happen and they were to be considered heirs, it would open what we call the floodgate of litigation, which is basically all the zygotes in the state of California would be considered rightful heirs of their parents' estates, which would cause mass havoc, and you'd no longer be able to dispose of any of the zygotes and all the banks. There'd be millions of new potential heirs to every estate in California.
Thank you so much and good luck.
Well, we've prepared for the last few days here in the Supreme Court suite. We've had multiple meetings since Wednesday. We've been going through the previous precedent cases and finding the arguments that best help our side of the case. We've looked through a few cases, including Roe versus Wade, the estate of Roberts, and the estate of Scott. And we've been using the probate codes along with those cases to show precedent and why our argument would be the best decision for the court.
What do you think your most pivotal arguments will be tomorrow?
Most definitely, the absolute most pivotal argument is conception, what the definition of conception actually is. All previous court cases, Supreme Court, circuit courts, have all decided that they were going to stray away from defining what conception actually is in an effort to leave it up to interpretation. And now that it's up to interpretation, it's our job, me and Chris, to argue that these zygotes have already reached the point of conception. And that is because the law of intestate succession states that at the point of conception, you are a rightful heir. So if we can prove to the justices that they've reached the point of conception, then we have also proved the subsequent fact that they are rightful heirs to the estate.
Do you think that you have any holes in your argument?
The argument actually has quite a few holes, only because the courts have never really put down a definite definition of conception, kind of leaving it up to interpretation. So a lot of it's going to be pulling certain stuff out of cases, kind of just arguing on the fact that these zygotes have been conceived. They have the sperm from Mr. Dink and the egg from Mrs. Dink and have been combined, and all they need to do to grow into a healthy baby is to be put into the marital womb, which actually they almost have the same % chance of living as a normal conception.
Are you ready?
I think we're more than ready for tomorrow. We've been working really hard on our case, and we're just finishing up our full arguments. It's a little bit difficult to prepare for a 30-minute speech when you know that you're going to be interrupted by all the justices who are, also very prepared. But we've spent a long time preparing, and I think that me and Chris are more than ready.